Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and welcome to another God of War video. Today, we are going to be turning our attention back to the current adversaries of Kratos and Atreus' journey, the ruthless gods of the Norse Pantheon, the Aesir, with Ragnarok upon us. As the game is going to take place during Fimbulwinter, we will be talking about the other gods that we may see from the Aesir Pantheon, those that have been alluded to in game and may play a role in the oncoming events. I will be excluding Thor and Try for the most part, as we already know that they will be in game, courtesy of their promotional pictures that were revealed when the Ragnarok trailer dropped. My god, it's been 5 months already. For this video, I will be choosing some more infamously known gods amongst the Aesir, as well as some obscure ones that are tied to already established characters, as it would make for more interesting conflicts, confrontations, and of course, battles. But before we do so, quick reminder as always, if possible guys, let's try getting this video to about 500 likes, as it is a fantastic way of supporting this channel and also does help give it that extra kick right out the gate. Plus, if you like the content we do here and wish to see more, please don't forget to subscribe and tick that bell, as it will keep you up to date with everything that we do here. But before we do begin, here is a quick message from today's sponsor. As someone who works from home and is constantly on their monitors, it is super important to take care of your personal health, whether that be from eating well to getting your regular form of exercise. But one thing that we do take for granted that kind of does go over our heads is our eyesight. With social media in the palm of your hand, or like me, you play video games way too long till 3 AM, this means it can take a toll on your eyes, as monitors emit a blue screen light. Something that at first won't seem that severe, but over a long duration of time will slowly start chipping away at your eyesight. This can lead to eye strain, itchy eyes, headaches, and even sleep deprivation, aka my life. But recently that's actually changed, and that is courtesy of these fantastic glasses GMG Performance have given to me. But you're probably asking the question as to why are these glasses so special? Well, outside of being stylish as hell and high quality, the glasses contain a lens that prevents any damage emitted from staring at a monitor for long periods of time. They protect your eyes, reduce the strain, and most importantly, improve your quality of sleep. And honestly, these things for me have actually been a bit of a life changer. My typical evening is that I go to the gym, come back home, and play something to kind of unwind before I go to bed. But periodically, by the time my head hits the pillow, my mind is already wide and awake, and unfortunately, I can't fall asleep. Luckily, these things have been preventing that. And honestly, it's kind of remarkable how something so small could be so beneficial in the long run. And if you're interested in purchasing these glasses, I mean, why wouldn't you? They're gorgeous as hell. Please click on the link down in the description below, and you will get 40% off on your first purchase. It's kind of criminal considering what they actually do for you. Also, a heads up, this 40% off will only last for 48 hours. So if you want to get them, I do recommend getting them now, as you could stay up all night playing video games much like I am. It's a problem. But honestly guys, I do actually highly recommend this product, as it's been super beneficial to myself. If anyone works in tech, IT, or is a gamer, these things are super beneficial, and I really couldn't recommend them enough. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get back to the video, shall we? Now, our first and most infamous god on the list is the all-knowing Odin. To no one's surprise, Odin's appearance in this game is not a matter of if, but when. The villainous leader of the Aesir has paved way a bloody warpath for his descendants to follow in. Having killed the very first giant, Ymir, Odin has since held an iron fist across all of the 9 realms, waging war against all that dare oppose his might. Although, in time, his belly of fire would somewhat simmer, as his rage would be tempered by marriage to the likes of Fjorgyn and Freya. As time passed by, and Odin learned about Ragnarok, the Raven King would be engulfed in the madness of the prophecy, consumed by it to his very core. Twisted by his own hysteria and paranoia, the king of the gods would turn against his own, imprisoning his child Tyr and incarcerating his ex-wife Freya. But that's not to say he took out all of his rage on his family, those that did not derive from the world of Asgard. suffered a far worse fate, the most infamous of these being the Jotunheim massacre of Midgard. Whilst it wasn't Odin that laid siege to the giants, it was his guiding hand that not only directed Thor, but also gave him his blessing to finally let loose. On that day, no giant that tread throughout Midgard was left unpunished, and all of the realms that sat at Odin's table were now left empty. Odin's madness drowned out any aspiration or dreams of what peace would be like amongst the 9 realms, and thus going forth, they would all be consumed in war, with battles being waged across the realms, or even fought within their homes. To the Aesir, this was victory all the same, and Odin lies deep within the heart of Asgard, planning, hunting, and waiting to control the seeds of fate. To some, this may be seen as cowardice from the Allfather, but in truth, Odin is playing it very smart, tactical, if you will. By binding his time, he's not only able to unravel the binding thread of Ragnarok, weaving its yarn to his favor, but by doing so, he believes he can unthread fate and bend destiny to his will. But despite his all-seeing gaze and endless amounts of knowledge, there was one person that the prophecy did not foretell, an ashen warrior from a faraway land, wreaking havoc throughout the 9 realms. Kratos, the fallen son of Zeus and slayer of Olympus. Now, more than ever, the Allfather hides deep within the realm of Asgard, preparing his forces as he hides from the ever-sharp blade of Kratos, fearing what the Spartan may represent to his fate, as he simply does not understand who and what he's dealing with. Now, onto our next god, we do have Heimdall, the all-seeing god of foresight and guardian of Asgard. Heimdall is a formidable warrior. Whilst we have not seen him in the God of War universe, or have heard him be mentioned, Heimdall is a pivotal character from the tale of Ragnarok. Because in Norse mythology, during the crumbling battle of Asgard, it is Heimdall that goes toe-to-toe against the trickster god Loki. The two clash blades as Asgard burns to the ground, and Loki is finally dealt a fatal blow. But of course, this was just before the Jotun himself could land a devastating blow on Heimdall. So, in the tale of Ragnarok, Heimdall and Loki are destined to clash and fall before each other's blade. But how does this translate over to God of War? Well, honestly, it kind of doesn't, as the foundation of the God of War universe really does take the Norse idea of Loki and Ragnarok and really twists the tale on its head. Atreus here is raised in a very, very different manner, brought up by the callous nature of Kratos, and nurtured by his kind-hearted mother, Faye. It's very different with how Loki was raised in Norse mythology, being under the guise of Odin, and is somewhat nurtured into becoming a mischievous and vengeful traitor. The foundations of their characters are so dramatically different that comparing the two isn't really possible, as they simply are just not the same person. However, in saying that, that's not to say that the young boy Atreus will not be battling the likes of Heimdall. This is God of War Ragnarok after all. The boy will most certainly have to end the likes of Asgard. It's just now the question of, 1, does this battle happen? And 2, if so, does Atreus survive it? As technically, he would have fulfilled his end of the prophecy by laying siege to Asgard during Ragnarok. And whilst it may sound kind of out there, as we're talking about a fundamentally important character dying, let's not forget that Thor was a bit of a reboot, and reintroduced old existing ideas and themes to the series. Of course, with the heavy emphasis on sons killing their fathers, with possibly a similar thing happening in Ragnarok. If we toy with this concept, we could see a similar blend of events that transpire before God of War 1 and the start of God of War 3. So the death of Kratos' family and his vengeance and siege on Olympus, or in this case, Asgard. There's no guarantee that this will happen at all, but it's at least fun to put that idea out there, as we can dive into what options we do have on the table. Now, our next god is Hodder, the god of darkness and winter. This is definitely quite an interesting choice for this list, because if you don't know, Hodder is not only blind in Norse mythology, but he is the one who is responsible for killing his brother Balder. Of course, this is courtesy of the guided hands of Loki, making him responsible for the death of the Child of Light. Now, of course, this tale is drastically different from its game counterpart, where Balder is responsible for breaking his own spell by punching Atreus and piercing his hand with a mistletoe arrow. So, once again, whilst similar, it is still done in a very different way from its source material. So, with that said, what do we currently know about Hodder? Well, in the God of War universe, honestly, not very much at all. Like Heimdall, the god is at no point mentioned in conversation or by name, but the Odin son does appear in a mural, clearly indicating that he is indeed alive. And with Odin's family being more involved in this installment of God of War, I would not put it past Hodder to appear in this installment, especially seeing as how the dev team have mechanically toyed with obscured vision in God of War 4 with Alfheim. Again, we're toying with the idea, that's not to say it will happen. Now, seeing as we are talking about family and vengeance, it's only right that we mention Thrud, or Thrud, depending on your pronunciation. Now, Thrud is a daughter of Thor, and is the Asgardian goddess of strength. Much like her father, it should pretty much go without saying that I can see her going out for blood. With her stepbrothers and uncle dead, she is more than enough of a reason to chase down the Spartan and his offspring. Whilst Thor may be guided by the hand of Odin, Thrud could be doing this to prove that she is worthy to be Mjolnir's successor, or that she's better than her stepbrothers, and may try to finish the job that they clearly could not. And there's a reason as to why I could see this happening. For those of you who don't know, Modi was always jealous of the strength of Magni, and because of this, the two were always at odds with each other, seeking out ways to prove their worth to their father. I imagine that the same sentiment probably happened with Thrud, as their rivalry could have actually been going on between the three of them. But what does Thrud bring to the table? Well, according to her mythological counterparts, as there's actually been many depictions of the goddess. In some iterations, she has been described to be as strong as a Valkyrie, if not so be one. Now, even if that wasn't entirely the case, it's still worth mentioning that her being described to be as strong as a Valkyrie already makes her a formidable foe. And with us all knowing the challenge that Sigrun posed in the previous game, we may see echoes of that difficulty here. But my final question regarding her is, does Thrud currently exist in the God of War universe? Yes, she actually does, but it is extremely quick in a passing conversation between Kratos and Sindri, so it does confirm that Thrud does exist in the God of War universe. And with the family of Odin coming for Kratos, it would not surprise me at all if the goddess had a point to prove. Now, our next and final god I wanted to mention here is Ola, the stepson of Thor and god of archery and hunting. I'm gonna somewhat break up the trend of bloodthirsty Odinsons and bring you a god that is far different from the rest of his family, taking on the same mentality and attitude as his uncle Tyr. Of all the games haven't fully explored this character, we do know that as a child, Atreus would be told the heroic deeds of Ola, as his mother Faye would tell him tales of the kind gestures and hearts of Tyr and Ola. Ola is in fact the one responsible for having Atreus pick up his bow, as his tales and deeds would inspire the young man, doing so to the point where he would play out his heroic acts. So, with Ragnarok here, and the hunt for Tyr beginning, I believe we could encounter Ulla, as he may be a key character in finding the whereabouts of his uncle, even though he is a minor character in Norse mythology. This would definitely be a nice way of incorporating a rather under the radar Aesir character and push him into the main narrative. So, with that said, this has been it for what other Aesir gods could we see. I hope this enlightened you on the topic of the Nordic gods we could see in God of War Ragnarok. The future has paved way a very interesting sequel, and it's only a matter of time before we see our heroes clash with the gods once more. So, with that said, who are you most excited to see in the next game? Thor? Odin? Heimdall? Maybe one of the characters I've included here? Please do comment down below, as I'd love to hear who you are all hyped to see. And also, just a quick reminder, we do have a scheduled State of Play this month. So, we may finally be learning the release date of God of War Ragnarok, and more about what's going on in game. But for now, this has been it for me. So as always everyone, stay strong, stay well, and keep on fighting as Ragnarok comes for us all. Take care everyone, see you soon.